Hey, this is the 9th lesson for this training course that lays the foundation to become a naturally attractive man. It is built upon a very simple rule for success. You watch each lesson and you continue to the next one only after you have done all the exercises in that lesson. The true power of this course lies on your participation. So if you haven't been on this course from the beginning, then push the button on the top right corner right now. However, if you have, well, then let's continue with lesson 9. In this lesson, we will talk about sex. Now, sex is one of those topics that can be talked about for hours. In this session, I have chosen to talk about the mentality you will need to become a true, modern-day sexual man. I will also talk about foreplay, giving oral and vaginal sex. This lesson is inspired by Hypnotica's program, Modern Day Sexual Man. Most of the ideas in this lesson come from this product. If you find this session helpful, you will probably love that product. As with a lot of things in life, like sports, business, education, and relationships, having a powerful mental mindset about sex is super important for success. The quality of your mindset paints your view of a sexual life. If you get your head right about sex, you will get a lot of new and powerful attributes that will flow over to other areas of life as well, especially in the land of women. The biggest difference in a sexual mindset is this. Ordinary men seek validation. Naturals seek pleasure. Ordinary men dream how they can have sex with a woman, how it will validate their manliness. Another knot on a bedpost, another woman conquered. Oh, can't wait to brag about her to my friends, some think to themselves. And as a side note, never kiss and tell. Never brag about your sexual conquests. Yes, you, a man, will be labeled the man by others, but she will have to endure the opposite. She will be labeled as a slut. Is this unfair? Yeah, but that's how our society is at the moment. Protect her privacy. That's one of the duties of a modern-day sexual man. And besides, women rarely come back for seconds from a man who just cannot shut his mouth. But let's get back to the mentality. A natural focuses on giving and sharing pleasures with her. This change in mindset is monumental, because if she isn't enjoying it, what is it for anyway? And for a man to be truly pleasurable to a woman in bed, he needs two things. First, he needs to educate himself about sex. Second, he needs to notice and pay attention to her. The first comes through experience, experimentation, using your creativity, and also from products like Hypnotica's Modern Day Sexual Man, or just browsing through the right pages on the internet. The second comes from getting outside of your head. You can't really please a woman if you aren't paying attention to her. Most guys get lost in their head and start following a certain pattern. Mostly a pattern they have seen from porn movies. It's always hardcore and wham bam. Focusing on giving and sharing pleasures with her is the mindset you want to be coming from, because this will be the catalyst for the biggest improvements. Now, let's talk about foreplay. And I want you to take the word and break it down for a moment. It's for play. It's for enjoyment. It's for teasing, for tempting, for building, for stimulating. Foreplay is a huge part of the process of sex. Not only does it separate you from other men who know not much about it, it's also very underappreciated and misunderstood. Most guys think that foreplay is when you and the woman are alone, making out, taking each other's clothes off, fingering her, and then, when finally naked, it's time for sex. For most guys, there's a block of foreplay and a block of sex. But that's wrong, because foreplay is a part of sex, not separate from it. Foreplay is the dance between the masculine and the feminine. It is the stimulus for the greatest sexual organ we have, our minds. Sex happens first in the imagination, which means foreplay doesn't start from the kiss on a couch, it starts way before that, usually from the first eye contact, because that starts the I'm interested process. I'm engaging with that person, And that's what foreplay is. Foreplay is intimate engagement. If you adopt this view that foreplay is engagement, then you can step back and become broad, creative, and playful. One way to become broad and creatively playful is during flirting. Here's something that most men just don't realize. Flirting is foreplay. The average man has a similar map in his mind. Start flirting with a woman, then start kissing with a woman, then remove the clothes, then start foreplay, and then you will get sex. A natural, however, knows that flirting is the beginning of foreplay, not separate from it. Flirting sparks the imagination, foreplay sparks the imagination. And if you look at flirting as foreplay, and foreplay as a sexual act in its own right, then you'll know that foreplay and flirting are all about getting the mind sexual. Some of the greatest foreplays start with a smile and a deep look into her eyes. And you knowing that foreplay sparks the mind sexual allows you to take your time. Now that we have this covered, let's turn to something that most men think is foreplay: giving oral. One of the greatest mistakes a man can make when going down on her is to be in his head. I am such a stud. Or, does she think I'm good? Whenever you catch yourself in your head, stop and start focusing on her. Because every woman responds to external stimuli differently. Every woman has a different map of her pleasure centers. How she interprets pleasures and the different tempos and textures and pressures and all the good stuff. The biggest keys to giving great oral and sex in general is to focus on her. Let her body guide you. Because sex isn't at all like in the porn movies, wham bam, constant drilling, bam bam bam. No, sex in its core is a naked, vulnerable, intimate communication that gives birth to pleasure. And as with any great communicator, you want to listen to the other person and respond accordingly. Become aware of her breathing, moaning, and body tension. Ask yourself, what is her body saying? Also, be curious. Does she like a faster rhythm or a slower, more deliberate lick over her clit? Does she prefer lips or tongue? Clockwise rotations or up and down, left and right? How much does she like the lick on her lips down there? How many fingers inside her? Does she like more pressure or rather a feather-like touch? Experiment on your own and have fun. This is playtime. You are there to give pleasure, to show the woman that you are listening to her. Now, let's talk about vaginal sex. The one thing I want you to get from this is that sex is about creativity, and that creativity comes from being present with the girl, from focusing on her. To be a good sexual partner, in a nutshell, this is all it takes. You focusing on her and trying things out until you find what works for her. Because if you are focusing on her, you are focusing on giving pleasure to her. Remember, you can't give pleasure if you are not paying attention. When most guys have sex, they have watched porn way too much. And it really reflects on their style and rhythm. It's always this fast drilling. They have been brainwashed to a degree that this is what good sex is about. Well, it's not. So I will offer you an alternative rhythm, which is really good if performed in doggy style, and it will also give you some ideas on how to come up with things yourself. So the rhythm is this: thrust, 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 2, 3, thrust, 2, 3, thrust, 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 2, 3, thrust. This breaks up the rhythm of bam, 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 bam. It's 3 times fast and not deep penetrating, and the fourth is more powerful and deeper. The first 3 create heat and anticipation in their pussy, and the fourth, deeper and stronger, creates a deeper boom-like sensation. Imagine yourself behind the woman right now, and going 1, 2, 3, boom, 1, 2, 3, boom, 1, 2, 3, boom, shallow, 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 deep, shallow, 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 deep. This, of course, is just one rhythm, but you can make it slower or faster. See what she likes and act accordingly. Then you can also just go deep inside her. 1, 2, 3, 4, and slowly pull your dick out until only the tip of your dick's head is still inside her. Then, very slightly go in and out, no more than the head of your penis. Do this for about 15-30 seconds, until she thinks that this is all you're doing, and then lean into her fully. And then just return to 1, 2, 3, boom, 1, 2, 3, boom. Being in the moment, concentrating on her and her body is vital here, because you want to know if she likes it, and you can't really know that if you're in your head. So, to sum it all up, a modern-day sexual man has the mentality that he is there, in bed, to give and share pleasure, which means he is paying attention to her. Foreplay is a part of sex that stimulates the mind, our greatest sexual organ we have. Sex starts first from the imagination, and flirting is a great tool for foreplay. Having great sex is all about giving pleasure. Whether it's oral or vaginal sex, listen to her body and her moans. Try out different things and see what works for her. Alright, let's get to the exercise. Hypnotica, in his modern-day sexual man, talks about bringing out desires from a woman. And the first exercise teaches a lot of the things a true lover should be. Look, a lot of women don't have the confidence to tell a man what she really wants. You have to coax it out of her. And that's one of the benefits of having a strong mindset about sex and pleasure. It's your job to make them realize that they can ask from you whatever they want to satisfy their needs and desires, and that you are happy to give them whatever they want. So, one of the techniques to get the woman to open up and say what she really wants is to stop, look her deeply into her eyes, wait for when you are emotionally connected, and then ask her, "What do you really want me to do?" And be silent. Be okay with the silence. Keep their eyes locked into yours. And you can say it again. What is it that you want? You don't want to force it out of her, but rather for her to connect to those deeply sensual and sexual desires. There's great seduction in deep silence, because if you can make a woman say and do things that are out of her comfort zone, then they're going to open up and appreciate that. So if you are there and asking her, "What do you want? Do you want me to eat your pussy?" She will say, "Yeah," and you will say, "Say it." She will most probably try to look away. Tell her to keep eye contact with you. She will then look at you and say, "Eat my pussy." She will say it with not a lot of authority. Then you will say, "Good, now say it again." Say it like you mean it. If she looks away, say, "Look at me." Keep that eye contact. Now say it like you mean it. And they will look you in the eye, and all of a sudden you will feel this sexual energy kind of expanding. Because here you are forcing her deep desires out. Here you are allowing them to really connect to those desires. Here you are giving them the affirmation to say whatever they want sexually as a woman. And you will go, "Now say that again." And all of a sudden you start hearing it in their language. They are getting more sexual, more connected to that intimate desire. And you are going to feel that difference physically when they say, "Eat my pussy." And you will go, "Perfect." Of course, then be ready for her to be so fucking wet and ready. Oh man, you two are going to have a great time. Now, for this video's exercise, I want you to mentally rehearse this situation I just described. Do it 4 times. If you need to, go back to the beginning of this fantasy, take notes, and then rehearse it. Rehearsing in the mind will prime you to do it better when the time comes for you to bring out her sexual desires. When you have done so, watch the next 2 videos on the playlist. The second one of them is quite long, so be prepared and take notes. Only when you have completed all the exercises in this course are you ready to continue to the last training session. Okay? Have fun, and I will see you there.